batting
They let it
faster.
fly, let it loose a
Yeah.
little bit.
Oh yeah, I agree.
All right, are we ready? We
All
got our
right,
next
the thumbs
guest.
up.
We are into hour number 5. As we keep this bad boy rolling, you're at the halfway point, Trina. We got 5 hours to go, so you're kicking off the second half of the show. Welcome in, thank you, and good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
How was being on the road, getting back out and getting your eyes on some prospects? I know it's a really weird place right now in the basketball world. How much emphasis do you put on high school? How much emphasis do you put on the transfer portal? I know you love the grind of it, so it's got to be fun getting back out and getting in the gym and getting some prospects. Getting your eyes on some prospects again.
Yeah, I think that we've done a really good job of building relationships with this 2025 class, and so that's putting us in a position to have a really strong one, we believe. But the portal's still live and well, and I think that what you do is you just kind of put in some puzzle pieces, right? If you're missing this spot or that spot, then the portal's the place to go. The trick is just about everybody's looking for the same thing. And so you just have to work a little harder to figure out who the best fit is. But I do appreciate being back out on the road again.
When you talk about fit, what kind of mindset do players out of the transfer portal have to have in order to kind of fit with your team? Because we talked to Coach Satterfield about it a lot. Like, they have to have a certain approach to the game, a certain approach to being a part of a team to be able to fit. So what do you look for in players out of the portal?
I think it's been interesting over the last couple of years, just how you look at where your program is. And I'm one of the believers that it's a long division problem.
Yeah.
If you get the first step wrong, it's really hard to get the right answer at the end. And so we just start with, you got to want to be a Bearcat, and you have to look at Cincinnati and say, this is a place where I feel like I can develop relationships. There's great networking, post-grad opportunities, and all of that. It can't just be like you go get the best player that you can find.
Yeah.
I think it just has to be based on need. For in our case, you have Jillian Hayes. Well, it's not smart to go get someone who plays the same position or has a similar skill set. Then because she's going to play 30 plus minutes a game. So now you've just brought somebody out the portal who it's important for them to have a superior last year and put them in a position for them not to play. Well, ultimately, that's not really ideal for a coach anyway, I would imagine. And secondarily, it's just really bad for the kid. And then they're going to turn around and it impacts your culture. It affects, how they buy into your system. And so I think we just start there, but then we also consider this basketball component too, to make sure that it's a good fit on the floor.
Coach, good seeing you again.
Real quick, Brent, I got to know, you're a head coach. You're very dialed into what's happening on the day-to-day during the season, and somebody approaches you and says, hey, we want to borrow Jillian to go to Belize in the middle of the season to be in the SI Swimsuit Issue. I'm sure you were happy for her and you wanted to say yes. How much of you was like, we got a game?
I think that once you just embrace where we are, those things don't surprise you or shock you. In the day of NIL, I think that when these young people have an opportunity to genuinely make money off of their name, image, or likeness, I think you jump for that more than you do anything else. And I think Jill had a harder time than me, because she was the one who didn't want to miss practice. She was the one that was concerned about how her team may feel, which of course they all surrounded her and supported her. And I thought that was a really neat moment for us as a team, was for her to do that and for there not to be any questions about, oh, is she going to start, or she missed practice and is she going to be ready? They trusted her to take care of her business and to come back prepared. And she had a really good game.
She told us about kind of the logistics getting back. And she came back, was it the morning of the Kansas game? How stressful was that for you, making sure that everything was in line for that?
She actually got in late the night before. What we did do was we went to the gym. And so we had gotten to a point where the night before we were getting there, and any players that wanted to come shoot, it was just me and them. And AO, of course, will put it together because we can't move anywhere without AO. She's the one who organizes everything. But we are in the gym and we break up into both ends. We get shots up and I put them through some stuff and they just get some things going. And her workout was just a little harder to get her
Yeah.
legs up under her. And but it's Jill. I mean, so you just know that she's gonna figure out how to show up. She could be dead dog exhausted, and she's still gonna figure out how to give you everything she has.
Yeah. In the promotional video today, talking about 513 Day, it showed her being the ball girl under the basket at Fifth Third. How special is it to you to kind of bring up those players who are from Cincinnati and want to represent Cincinnati? And then even to her point, just be a pedestal and a logo for the university.
I think it's double-sided for us. The people who grow up like Jill that are part of the ball girl system, and then it turns into they come to games, and then their parents come to games and bring them, and they participate in camps. Like, that's the whole purpose of us having these camps, is so that we are like first contact, you know, for these young people, and they grow up saying, I want to be a Bearcat, because it's all they even really know. And so it's really hard for anything else to happen after that. And then you have the other side where, as we recruit quality young people from all over the country, we want them to understand how special a place this is. And even though it may not be the area you grew up in, but it can still be home.
Yeah.
And I think the perfect mixture of those two things is what makes this place really special. Because as much as Jill gets recognized, I think people feel the same way about Ari Jackson. You know, oh, that's the kid from Brooklyn. She's the one that does this and does that. And she has that accent and she wears her hair like this, you know, and I think she's been just as embraced by the Cincinnati community, you know, as Jill has.
Yeah.
Speaking of cool things in the Cincinnati community, and speaking of warm weather, and speaking of all these different things together, a week ago, you, or I think it was a week ago, you were asked to do something pretty cool and throw out the first pitch at a Great American Ballpark. Just break all that down for us. What all went into it, and how was the pitch?
So, joke on me. I thought that I was just going to be introducing the ball until like the day before, and Maggie, who everybody knows is our SWA, my direct supervisor, and was a track and field athlete when I was playing basketball here. So she said, hey, you're gonna throw the first pitch. Well, it's Maggie. So of course I'm like, okay. So from there, AO gets me a ball, Abby gets me a glove, and we go over to the baseball field, because I just have to throw a couple of times.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I probably have thrown a baseball from an actual mound 4 times my entire life. And it just makes me feel a little better. So I start throwing it, and it gets worse. Like with everyone. And AO tell you, she's like, the second one was the best one. And I was like, well, then we need to go. Because, you know, so I get out there, and they do tell me that I can stand in front of the mound. And I'm like, oh, now I'm in great shape, because it's not as long. But no, it was really neat walking through the tunnel. Obviously the security is always really funny to me, because I'm always like, I don't need security. Nobody's gonna try to like get anywhere close to us, right? We're not that big time. Everybody's just really nice. And then I start getting these text messages from people who I knew that didn't know. So like Emily Vogelpool that played for us at Wright State, a kid named Olivia, who was a triplet that my dad coached, text my dad, and it was like, Trina's getting ready to throw out the first pitch. So some of that was the really cool part. But yeah, it just was a really neat experience, and I enjoyed it very much.
That's awesome.
How much have collectives kind of changed the landscape of everything? And tell us your experience, like how easy Cincy Reigns has been to work with, and what they've been able to do, you know, in collaboration to help you guys out.
Yeah, I think this has been the best part for me. And one of the reasons why Cincy Reigns is one of the top, if not the best collectives in the country, right, is because I honestly don't do much of anything. You know, and they allow me to do what my job is, and to be good at what I'm supposed to do. So I don't spend a lot of time with things that are outside of our program, specifically figuring out what we're going to run next year, taking official visits, going out recruiting. But the communication is always smooth and easy. I think you have people who love Cincinnati, and again, not just the university, not just athletics, but the city in general. So they want to see all of our student athletes be successful. And what makes them special is we're not talking like dollars and cents. We're talking about people. And you know that when you come to Cincinnati and you deal with Cincy Reigns, you're going to be dealing with quality people. And I think the parents know that they can trust these folks. And I think that the student athletes feel very comfortable knowing that they're being looked out for. And to me, that is what makes Cincy Reigns special.
Incoming
Coach was
freshman.
on with
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Aaron.
Coach Wes Miller was on with us earlier, and he was just kind of talking about some of the things that have changed with the allowing players to transfer as many times as they want, and his feelings on that and how that all went. And he gave us, I don't know that it was necessarily an unexpected take, but he went the other way when I asked him. But I was just curious to get your thoughts on on what you thought when that rule change came about.
Yeah, Wes and I have a lot of conversations, whether we're passing each other or we just walk into each other's offices. And I think the interesting thing for football and men's and women's basketball especially is that we're all in 3 different places. And I tell people, even with men's basketball, we're the same sport, but it's not the same game. What he's dealing with on the men's side is completely different than what I'm dealing with on the women's side. So it's perfectly natural for us to have different takes or perspectives on the portal and NIL and things like that. But ultimately, we just want to put the most quality people that we can right out there. I think that the hard part for me is not paying attention to the degree completion for these young people. Yeah, and I think that that's probably more of a concern of mine because a lot of male basketball players can go off and go pro, right? They don't have to graduate. Well, the W has an age restriction. So in order for you to do that, you have to, I believe it's 21 years old. So you, in essence, need to graduate. And plus, you need to graduate anyway because of the financial differences and the earning power between the 2 leagues. So, of course, we want people to stick. We want you to come here and work really hard and fight through. My experience was I didn't start until I was a junior, right? Probably played 7 minutes a game as a freshman. And I think that I'm better for that journey than I was on than I was chasing minutes or anything like that. But that's my experience. And I don't down anybody for what their experience is, but I do think there's some value in sticking with it. But what is hardest for me, my degrees being in education, is really if you keep transferring 2, 3, and 4 times and you haven't graduated yet, how many credits are you losing as you go from place to place to place? And are you able to get the degree that you really want to get, or are you getting one that you don't have a choice because it's the one major that actually accepts your credits? And to me, I think that's what we're not talking about, especially on the women's side, that we really need to shine a light on more than anything.
Incoming freshman Chloe Mann won another state championship in track and field. Give her flowers real quick. And then also you got a commitment out of the transfer portal since last time we talked. Just the addition of building the roster and of course adding in Tanea Hilton to the fold as well. Yeah.
Well, Chloe Mann is going to be one of the best athletes we've ever coached. And I think that she is not just because of her athleticism, but her mentality. Both of her parents played in the Big 12, one football, the other one track and field. They are great people, but they are super competitive. So when she decided she was running track, she wasn't running track just to stay in shape or just to do anything. She's like, no, if I'm gonna do it, we're gonna win a state championship. And meanwhile, I've got no concept of Texas, anything or where Duncanville stands in that. So I'm like, okay, sweetheart, sure, go get it, do the best you can, and then we look up and we're like, whoa, she's getting ready to win another state championship. So we're been excited about her before she even won her basketball championship. Just her mentality, her drive, her competitive spirit, all wrapped up in a really good kid, right? So we're not going to deal with somebody who's a jerk or somebody who is going to walk around here thinking that they're the best thing since sliced bread. Incredibly humble, and is going to work hard every single day and elevate practice for us. Tanea Hilton is the point guard that we needed. She can knock down a 3, she can handle the ball, she's poised, all the things that we felt like we were going to have in Maya Jackson that we ended up not having, unfortunately. So we're really looking forward to her joining, her leadership, her experience. She's played some high level big time basketball, and I think that that's going to be something that she contributes. And she's another one, great kid, great family. We enjoyed the entire process getting to know her. And now we're just going to try to finish out with a couple more pieces.
We didn't ask you about this the first time. I think this is something that people don't really know anything about. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. You guys essentially have a practice group of men's players that come in and train with you guys.
Yeah.
Take us through that process. I don't think people realize that, like, you guys use this tool to elevate in practice and get better and more ready for games. And how hard is that selection process? Do you have to recruit the guys that you play against?
You know, because we've been in a couple different places, I think retention is the hardest thing because there's restrictions about what we're allowed to do with them and what we're allowed to give them. And then we're at Wright State and we had them at Memphis. And then the rule passed that they could double as a practice player and a manager. So our first year at Memphis, we actually traveled 3 to 4 men with us when we were going to away games. And I do believe it was a factor in why we were able to get that thing going and turned around so quickly, because it was such high level competition in there, because those guys were bigger, stronger, taller, faster. And they just give you an opportunity to do some things that are really hard to practice against when it's just all women in the gym. Plus, it allows you to rest some of your starters that are playing heavy minutes. Because if you think about scouting, then you have to use all 10 of your players. Like you got 5 on offense, 5 on defense, and you flip them. Well, it takes a really long time sometimes to get through different lineups. Well, if you just have a practice squad full of guys, and mind you, you can't have a practice squad full of girls. If it is a female, then it has to be a walk-on. So it's very specific. So when we say guys, it's not that there aren't females that can't help us. It's just they're not allowed to be on the practice squad. That's simply just simply a male role for us in our program. And I love that you asked that, because Dawn Staley talked about it when she won her national championship. And I don't know that people realize, like, it's been around forever. There were practice players here in the 90s, you know, but what they do through their commitment is they just allow practice to be competitive. They allow us to rest our starters. And I think it gives them something to do too. We would like to think that they feel like they're a part of our family and our sisterhood. And I think those things make them happy, give them a little bit of inclusivity too. And just something to do when they're not in class.
I have to ask about a family or a personal friend situation.
Okay.
Tell us about Abby Holman and how she's done. I know I've told you this before. I grew up with her mom. I played baseball with her uncle. I've known her dad since we were little kids. How was her freshman year and her progress? And tell us maybe a little bit about her story of being hearing impaired and how you adjusted to that and helped her through this year.
Yeah, I mean, everything that we do in regards to the development of our young women, we're very intentional about it. And I know that Abby came out of high school as this heralded shooter. And so we were trying to get her to understand, with her size and her ability to score the ball, that she could just attack the rim. And I think a couple games she led us in free throw attempts. You know, so what I think Abby is doing is just trying to find her footing and find where she fits. But has she improved? Absolutely. She messed up her ankle there for a little bit, and I thought she was going to lose her mind, because Abby Holman not being able to play basketball is, you know, like having daytime without the sun. You know, she just has zero interest in it, and it just doesn't work. But she fought back from it, and I felt like she was really consistent all year in her effort. And she had a typical freshman year. There were some ups and some downs, and there were some highlights. And then, you know, just like how when I was a freshman, of course, my coach didn't know what she was doing because she didn't put me in the game more. So Lori is now Trina, you know. But I am looking forward to her next year, where she's a little more comfortable. In regards to her being hearing impaired, it always paused, because I don't really recognize it a lot, to the point sometimes she'll look at me and she'll tap her ear and I'm like, sorry, you know, or like I'll talk louder, or she'll move in closer. The neatest part about having her on our team is when the team first found out and they realized how important it was for them to echo everything. So when it was a drill, or we called out a play, or there was some sort of instruction, Aisha did absolutely every time repeated it. And Abby was starting to be able to rely on her to repeat it the second time. And I think it's that connectivity and that type of teamwork that Abby unintentionally created for us. And then she makes jokes about it all the time. I mean, and sometimes we do like this, and she's like, "What? Just talk louder." You know. And so she's so well adjusted and she's so likable that if I'm not thinking about her, it's not brought up. I don't know that I've really done a whole lot to help her, to coach her, besides just pay attention when she needs me to do something differently, and I just do it. But other than that, it's business as usual.
Great family. Love her mom and dad.
Yeah, they're awesome people.
And you know why she doesn't know how to do anything but play basketball? Her dad has her in the gym. If she's not playing basketball for you, she's in the gym with her dad.
Yes, she is always in the gym. And one thing that I think that she'll appreciate me saying publicly is one of the things that we do is we start working with footwork as soon as they get here. And I feel like a little bit I messed up her footwork from what she was doing in high school some. And she's so coachable that she didn't fight me about it. She tried it. And then ultimately I just left her alone. I was like, just shoot it however you make shots, and I think sometimes those are learning curves for us too, as coaches, because you want to protect them. Last thing you want is for them to go in a game and travel, because eventually, that starts to chip away at them. My patience gets short. So that was my attempt to like, hey, let's just do this. And then eventually she was like, my feet don't feel right. And so I was like, well, fine, just go back to doing it how you were before. So I'm also looking forward to that from her. Is her just being able to come in, and I'm not going to say anything to her about it. She's just going to come in and make shots and be comfortable. And I think that we're going to see a more mature, developed and well-adjusted Abby on the floor.
Her trainer probably messed her up, and you know who I'm talking about.
I'm not
we'll leave that. We'll leave that there. I'm just going to say, I'll leave that there.
The burden of leadership, I got to tell, I stand behind them in victory and in front of them in defeat. So if she couldn't make shots, I'll take it as my fault. And I will not say another word. So I guarantee you she'll be shooting the ball better this year, because I'm not going to say anything to her. Just going to let it rip.
I was just taking a little jab at her trainer.
I know what you were doing, and I told you I'm not doing in on any of those things.
Her trainer is a longtime friend of mine. I have known him for a long time. He is a very good friend.
And I told you that last time. See, he's your friend. You're a long-term friend. I'm not going to get the same grace that you get. That's why I'm staying out of it.
Chad's a fire starter. He knows that. You know that. We all know that.
I am. I have figured that out in our last couple of conversations.
We do have a couple questions in the chat. Thoughts on Lisa Bluder? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Bluder.
Retiring and her impact to the game. And do you have any memories of her or times you crossed paths with her?
I absolutely did. When I was an assistant at Purdue, she was the head coach at Iowa, because I only know her to be the head coach at Iowa before, after Coach Stringer went to Rutgers. So I think that watching somebody coach for over 20 years, and I think that she would appreciate like her staff being mentioned as well. Amazing people. And they have always been kind. They have always been nice. And then they turn around and they work their tails off too. And that's Raina, who is an assistant there. Jen, who's an associate head coach. Like, these are people who have been giving and giving to the game. And what Iowa was able to do, and Caitlin Clark, I know everybody should give the player all the credit always, but the ability for Coach Bluder to manage her team and having a player like her, and you watch their camaraderie, I think that's something that's incredibly special that we all strive for.
And then the other one, actually, you already answered that one about the incoming transfer portal. Are you guys done in the portal, or are you still shopping? Still got your toes in the water?
Yeah, we're not done yet. We have some visits that are coming up, and we're excited about them. So hopefully we'll see some more commitment videos pop up on social media here in the next couple of weeks.
There we go.
I was going to ask how excited you are to get back in the gym for summer practices.
Yeah, super excited. We do our welcome back event where all the parents come to, and we meet with the parents. The kids go eat, and then we flip. We meet with the kids and the parents go eat, and then they play a little bit of open gym. So out of our 4-hour access that we have in that week, we give up that hour just to watch them play. And it gives our parents an opportunity to see the team first. And we enjoy doing that, getting an opportunity for them to interact and mingle, and then just to see our team play. And it guides what we do in the following weeks based off what we see from that 1 hour of open gym. So more than excited to get going.
There we go.
Just don't be surprised if you see a fire starter drift in there once or twice.
Y'all are welcome to come in anytime. I don't think that there's any restrictions on any of
We're
it.
allowed now. They lifted them.
Yeah.
We have been freed.
I know. I'm glad. And y'all, you can. All you got to do is make sure that we're practicing. If we're practicing and you're free, you come on in.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Trevor.
Coach. We appreciate it. Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, Trevor. Actually, that has been
Thanks, Trevor.
honestly that has been a long-standing point of contention. That I want to come and watch summer workouts. I am sick and deranged like that. That like we don't do anything. I don't care. I want to come watch. And then the day that it got lifted, he actually sent me a text and he's like, "You can come back to workouts now."
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, who knows what that was about? For every rule that seems silly, it was probably someone silly who did something silly.
Right.
So I'm glad that
Well, actually, I think it just started because remember, it wasn't that long ago that summer workouts weren't a thing. Like, players went home.
Correct.
And they didn't come back until July or the start of August. And I think when they implemented it, it was just a thing to like protect from the outside. Like you're just going to get to be with your team. There's not going to be any media coverage, whatever. I think that's initially, I think it started from a good place, but then we're like a decade in now. Like it's not new anymore.
That's right. Well, they did change the rules too. See, it used to be we had to work in small groups, and now on day one, if we want to have a full practice, we can do that. Now, I don't know anyone who's doing that because you have to get the conditioning where it needs to be. But I am happy with the freedom that we have now, that we don't have to worry about following, groups of 4, groups of 8, and then finally being able to practice.
Yeah. All right. Well, keep it going this spring, and can't wait to see you in the summer.
I appreciate it. Looking forward to it. Y'all come by.
Thanks,
All right,
Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.